escuchado, y en un lienzo, en una pintura, se plasmarán los distintos destinos a los que el presente acudió. La gastronomía de nuestra región en un constante tema de conversación, generando un impacto positivo en nuestra entidad, creando confianza entre las personas de manera automática y inmediata, y así esto más próximos pacientes. Doctores, esto quiere decir que ustedes tendrán el poder de convertir al paciente en un embajador de turista médico. Invito a Frank Núñez para revelar esta obra de arte que es titulada Encuentro y Alianza.
A ver, vamos a ayúdenos a contar, por favor, porque dice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fuerte el aplauso, por favor. Creación de Leticia Abigail. Platícanos de que nos platique, por favor, el concepto de lo que estamos viendo.
Esta obra es un brindis. ¿Y qué hacemos con un brindis? Celebramos. Entonces esta obra es una celebración y el nombre es Encuentro y Alianza. Aquí podemos ver distintos factores y este es el tipo que queremos generar en los pacientes. Y les tengo un regalo. Les tengo impresiones y postales de esta pieza y justo eso es lo que queremos lograr, que ustedes, doctores, les lleven estas obras de arte a sus pacientes, que se sientan esta calidez, que se sientan especiales, que se conviertan en embajadores de región, de puede ser aquí de Tijuana, de Monterrey, de Querétaro, de Quintana Roo, de donde nos acompañen. ¿Por qué? Porque se trata de realzar de manera positiva nuestra región y que ellos regresen con una actitud positiva recomendándonos más pacientes. Pertenezco a 5 asociaciones civiles de la región y honro mucho el tema de la energía femenina. La energía femenina es energía multiplicadora. Nuestro planeta Tierra es energía femenina, por eso nos da, nos provee. Entonces aquí es una manera de augurar un éxito para todos ustedes, para el turismo médico. ¿Por qué? Porque está dando raíces en esta parte donde queremos generar esta unión binacional. La energía uniendo todo lo de manera internacional, de manera mundial, la energía femenina, dentro de una copa de celebración, y aquí podemos ver las banderas, el destino, la simbología es muy importante en el arte porque nos lleva a entender de una manera más óptima. Y pues aquí vemos estas uniones que representan este Congreso Internacional de Turismo Médico 2024 de Tijuana, sede Gran Hotel.
¡Wow! ¡Felicidades, Mary!
Por ahí está que se pueden hacer el favor.
Sí, mira, quiero mencionar algo bien importante. Nos acompaña también el promotor de arte, Marcos García. Y quiero, adelante Marcos, por favor. Él trae las impresiones, ¿no?, de souvenirs para cada uno de los embajadores. Y algo que me mencionaba hace rato Leticia, nuestra artista plástica, que ellos tienen el emprendimiento de arte, como ustedes pueden observar, y todo ha sido enfocado al arte, haciendo la amalgama con el turismo de salud, y en este caso Marcos García también promotor, y pues trae ya los reconocimientos, el souvenir, ¿no?
Sí, es un honor presentarles a Marcos García, es mi socio, y él es el cofundador del primer departamento de arte y cultura de Tijuana, así que es una persona que tiene un recorrido y un conocimiento cultural increíble. Gracias por honrarme con tu presencia.
Felicidades, Marco. Y pues, a ver, muéstranos el souvenir, la impresión, por favor. Cada uno se lo va a poder llevar. Frank, ¿cómo te sientes con esta obra artística?
No, fabuloso, no me dejaba verla. Es sorpresa. Obviamente los ponentes que ya subieron, este es un regalo para ustedes. Esta obra representa, yo sé que ya lo dijo ella, pero lo quiero decir yo también. Representa lo que queremos que suceda con nuestros pacientes, que se lleven una obra. Aquí esto representa nuestro congreso y lo de hoy, o de estos días. Sin embargo, cuando viene vamos a hacer una mujer, a hacerse una cirugía plástica, queremos que se lleve una obra con todos los íconos de lo que vivió, lo que sintió, lo bonito de este destino, para que no se acabe lo que es ser una embajadora. Ser un embajador no es para siempre. Yo lo he visto con mis pacientes y quiero que lo sepan. Se les olvida el año donde fueron y el nombre del doctor. Con esto ya no. Con esto ya no, porque cada paciente va a tener su propia obra. Y para eso van a ver a Leticia. Leticia, excelente trabajo, muchísimas gracias. Los que ya hablaron, los ponentes, nos vamos a acercar con sus regalitos, que es una de estas, ¿verdad? Gracias.
Por supuesto, ahí está. Y aparte, Leticia, tenemos el reconocimiento por parte del Congreso, para que ahí te lo entrega Frank.
También Leticia.
También aquí está. La fotografía oficial, por favor, acércate ahí, Marcos, la fotografía oficial. Y felicidades por este trabajo artístico, dándole un toque especial en esta tarde de charlas médicas. Felicidades, un aplauso, por supuesto. Bueno, ¿cómo se siente por allá atrás? ¿Todo bien? ¿Sí? Eso. Yo hace rato quería saludar a los de Monterrey. ¿Cuánta gente más viene de Monterrey? Por acá venían 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Venían de Guadalajara también. Felicidades. Qué bueno que se trajeron las frutas ahogadas, ¿o no?
Sí, sí.
Vientos. Y los
el
de
mariachi.
Tijuana, ¿dónde está Tijuana? ¡Ole! Yeah, para continuar con esta tarde de plenarias, vamos a hacer un pequeño espacio para nuestros siguientes patrocinadores. Tenemos un patrocinador bien especial que lleva por nombre Tecnovisión. Por ahí también está un módulo preparado. ¿Y qué es Tecnovisión? Tú puedes observar en el módulo, lo puedes observar en las redes sociales. ¿Qué es Tecnovisión? Hoy nuestro patrocinador oficial nos acompaña César Neri, director comercial de Tecnovisión. Por favor, César, un aplauso para César, que nos platique de Tecnovisión en este congreso.
Muchísimas gracias. Ahí se escuchó. Bueno, pues muchísimas gracias. La verdad es que para nosotros Tecnovisión es un honor estar presentes en este gran evento. Gracias, Frank, por permitirnos hacer una sinergia interesante con ustedes. Digo, si ustedes se preguntan qué es Tecnovisión, los invito a que vean una pantalla que tenemos a un ladito. Esta pantalla que nos ha acompañado todo el evento. Esta empresa es una empresa que tiene más de 20 años en acción. Es la primera pantalla que existió de publicidad gráfica en lo que es la región de Tijuana, San Diego. Si ustedes vieran la pantalla, yo creo que en generación no está, pero ustedes se las platico a gusto. Si ustedes cuando cruzan a Estados Unidos o cuando entran a México, tenemos la oportunidad de decir que Tecnovisión es la primera pantalla de publicidad que cualquier persona revisa cuando entra a territorio latinoamericano, porque estamos en la pura zona de Chaparral, donde estamos en territorio federal. Y cuando la gente viene, ingresa a México, la primera pantalla, donde se quedan hasta media hora detenidos antes de entrar a México, esa pantalla es Tecnovisión. Y la última pantalla que tenemos en Latinoamérica para poder ingresar a Estados Unidos, justo a un ladito de la línea Sentry, el último edificio de México, esa pantalla también es una pantalla de Tecnovisión. ¿Qué quiere decir? Que Tecnovisión es una empresa consolidada, con más de 20 años de experiencia, que apoya muchísimo la parte del branding. Les platico un poquito sobre mí. Yo tengo la oportunidad de ser licenciado en turismo, egresado aquí de la UABC, y que también tengo una maestría en marketing y tengo más de 25 años dando clases de marketing en la región. Por muchos años me he dedicado a la parte de las telecomunicaciones y aplicaciones y cosas interesantes. Sin embargo, ahora que estoy encargado con la parte de Tecnovisión, la pregunta es, ¿y las pantallas siguen siendo un negocio? Pues sigue siendo una excelente oportunidad de venta porque tenemos muchísimo branding. ¿Qué quiere decir esto? Recuerden que la gente reacciona a su subconsciente. Nosotros vendemos la oportunidad de que la gente te ubique y cuando llega a tu punto de venta y revisa tu marca, la gente dice, ya lo vi, ya lo había visto. Muchísima gente, traemos redes sociales, les platico. A mí me toca la clase de marketing digital, sabemos que buscamos lead, sabemos que buscamos un engagement súper padre, pero lo interesante también es que no toda la gente reacciona a ciertos mercados. Tenemos la oportunidad de que gente de un ingreso alto, los que pasan por la línea Sentry, o la gente que tiene cierta edad, cuando entra a México y viene la expectativa de que si va a ir al doctor, siempre estamos los presentes. No es por nada, yo los invito a voltear a ver la pantalla para que vean la calidad de la pantalla que tenemos nosotros. La pantalla de nosotros tiene más de 20 años trabajando aquí. Somos fabricantes, se venden pantallas a nivel nacional e internacional. nos dedicamos a dar mantenimiento. Si ustedes conocen alguna pantalla, los invito a que vean cualquier otra pantalla que no es de Tecnovisión. Tenemos 5 pantallas en la región y tenemos alianzas comerciales con diferentes lugares. Pero lo interesante de nosotros es que tenemos el soporte, el diseño y el mantenimiento de las pantallas. Difícilmente nuestras pantallas van a tener esas pantallas grises o negras porque se les ponen las condiciones, pero como nada más importaron, no saben cómo darle mantenimiento y tu publicidad va a ser un poquito afectada. Nosotros trabajamos muchísimo, tener mucho cuidado en el branding de tu empresa para que la gente conozca qué estás haciendo y que se vea adecuadamente con tu negocio. Espero que les llame mucho la atención, los esperamos ahí adentro. Rapidísimo, les quería platicar. También, decíamos, el marketing digital es maravilloso, tenemos que andar buscando a ese cliente, tenemos que hacer esa campaña, ese embudo de captación para que terminemos en un lead. Sin embargo, mientras las redes sociales buscan a los clientes, nosotros los tenemos pasando por nuestras pantallas todos los días. Estamos prendidos 24 horas y tenemos la oportunidad de hacer un traje a la medida en relación a tu presupuesto. Algo también que era importante decirles es que la empresa está trabajando en algo bien interesante y me encantaría próximamente platicarles. Estamos trabajando en una inversión de millones de dólares para convertir algunas de nuestras pantallas en pantallas 3D. Las primeras pantallas de 3D de Latinoamérica. Para que cuando la gente entre o salga de México vea una condición interesante sobre tu publicidad, tu imagen, pero con esas pantallas que alguna vez han visto en Times Square o en China, donde la publicidad es completamente 3D. Estamos trabajando en este concepto para desmarcarnos y hacer asociaciones de negocio, cada uno de ustedes, si ustedes lo requieren, para ayudarnos a llegar al resultado de su objetivo comercial que más les beneficie. Por mi parte es todo, y cualquier cosa que necesitemos, les aseguro, hay una promoción en nuestro módulo, donde ustedes giran la ruleta y se pueden llevar hasta el segundo mes de publicidad gratis. Ahí platicando.
Yo me gané uno.
Sí. Platicando ahí con ellos, ¿vale?
Un aplauso de Tecnovisión. Hoy eso está interesantísimo porque yo quiero subrayar algo. Incluso la niña todo el tiempo ve las pantallas y a veces nos imaginamos, ha de ser bien caro, ha de ser muy difícil, ¿qué tengo que hacer para que mi consultorio se promocione en las pantallas, para mi consultorio dental, para mi spa? Definitivamente Tecnovisión es la mejor opción para la línea y tienes ahí 20 segundos, 10 segundos y rápido.
Lo podemos hacer a medida. Lo interesante es algo que les explico que si ustedes están en redes sociales, ustedes sabemos que muchos de las empresas en redes sociales sus bases están en Irlanda. En algunas condiciones no son deducibles de impuestos para el mercado mexicano. Nosotros somos 100% deducibles para el mercado mexicano y también tenemos instancia en Estados Unidos. Podemos facturar en Estados Unidos, podemos facturar en México. Y la intención de todo es que tenemos un equipo de marketing, de desarrollo, de diseño, para podernos ayudar a consolidar tu estrategia.
Unas palabras por mi parte, porque la verdad, pues aquí viene una persona
Y el reconocimiento para Tecnovisión, patrocinador oficial. Y no se les olvide pasar al booth de Tecnovisión, porque en la ruleta te puede llevar un mes de publicidad gratis, quizás. No sé, algo que puede llevar de regalito por parte de nuestros amigos de Tecnovisión. También van a firmar el rompecabezas. Nadie se puede ir sin firmar el rompecabezas hoy. Y, damas y caballeros, vamos a continuar. Tenemos un video que queremos proyectar. Recuerden que Tijuana, Baja California, es la frontera más visitada y más activa del mundo. Y hoy en este Congreso Internacional de Turismo Médico, pues queremos que tú conozcas lo que ofrece por parte de la Secretaría de Turismo, de Convenciones de Turismo, lo que ofrece Baja California para los pacientes, para ustedes como médicos, para el público en general, y lo plasmamos en un video que ya tenemos ahí listo en producción, un video que dura un minutito antes de pasar a nuestro siguiente ponente. Corre video.
Welcome to Baja California,
La capital del vino
de la cheve artesanal,
y la gastronomía más revolucionaria de México.
hogar de carreteras únicas,
Deslumbrante.
escenario de amaneceres y atardeceres asombrosos. Bienvenido a la tierra de los 7 valles y del vino mexicano, donde la langosta, el erizo y las conchas hicieron
y miles de estrellas.
Millones de estrellas.
Donde se comen los mejores tacos del mundo.
Y las noches se iluminan por el neón de la legendaria Avenida Revolución.
Bienvenido al Valle de los Gigantes y al Acuario del Mundo.
Donde se respira la paz del Mar de Cortés.
Y se siente la fuerza del Océano Pacífico.
Welcome a la tierra que atrapó al sol para quedarse con su brillo. Donde la chinesca nos deslumbra con su herencia ancestral.
Bienvenido al norte.
El brazo noble de México.
Grande
Diversa.
y multicultural.
Donde siempre se recibe de corazón.
Welcome to Baja California.
Donde todos son bienvenidos.
¡Wow! ¡Qué bonito video! Acá nuestra amiga Leticia Villarreal, de Final de Rompecabezas, filmó el arte aquí, pero no filmó el rompecabezas, mira. Muy bien, qué bonito video. Definitivamente Tijuana, Baja California tiene mucho que ofrecer, la Baja tiene mucho que ofrecer, y por favor, compañeros médicos, pónganlo ahí en su lista de recorridos. Y pues vamos a continuar con nuestra siguiente plenaria. Quiero mencionar algo, nos quedan 2 plenarias en inglés. Vamos a continuar lo que queda de la tarde con diferentes plenarias, pero 2 de ellas son en inglés. El día de mañana, el miércoles, todas las participaciones son en español. Para que digo, si estás como un poquito estresado en ese detalle, ya me pasaron el dato. Hoy terminamos con 2 plenarias más en inglés y mañana todas en español y una en dialecto, creo, producción. Vamos a continuar con nuestro siguiente invitado en esta tarde con el tema Medical Tourism Entrepreneurship por parte de nuestro compañero el doctor Arlen Meyers. Where are you, Arlen Meyers? Please welcome Arlen Meyers.
Creo que sí, no sé, la verdad que el lenguaje
¿Qué tema tan interesante? Medical Tourism Entrepreneurship. Doctor, there you go.
Muchas gracias. And if you didn't get that right, then blame Peter because he's the one that's teaching me Spanish. Thank you for having me. This is a tough speaking spot because I'm between the whale in Baja and cocktail hour, so I hope you stick around and listen to what I have to say. I'm from the University of Colorado. I'm an ear, nose, and throat facial plastic surgeon and have been through multiple career pivots. The most recent one is I'm pretty much involved in the business of medicine and medical practice innovation and entrepreneurship. I spent my first part of my career as an academic surgeon at the University of Colorado as a professor, and then I wound up being an accidental medtech entrepreneur. A group of individuals that I work with invented a medical device that detects cancer in the mouth. And I really had no understanding of how to get that idea to a patient. And that subsequently led to what I do now, which I guess we call my billboard, which is I help people in white coats get their ideas to patients. So if you have an idea as a medical practitioner or a bioengineer or a scientist or anyone who is interested in coming up with an innovation and trying to get it to a patient, that's a pretty difficult pathway. And very few medical professionals really know how to do that. In most medical schools around the world, and I've had the good fortune of seeing several of them, the business of medicine is not something that is taught in medical school, let alone how to commercialize an idea, an invention, a discovery, a drug, a digital health device, a remote sensor, artificial intelligence, all the stuff that you've heard about in the past session. So I'm here to pretty much highlight and give you the big picture as to what I think is required for successful medical tourism practice. I might add that one of my early companies was a medical tourism company. It was a platform that basically connected doctors around the world to each other and allowed them to exchange medical information about patients that they referred back and forth. That happened several years ago, and medical travel and medical tourism has really advanced a lot since that time, but there are still significant barriers to growth, which is why you're all here. I mean, we're all trying to figure out at this meeting, how do you get more patients to use your services? And that's what I'm going to talk about. And this is a pretty complicated, high level, not complicated, but a high level and I'm happy to talk to you about more of this tomorrow or after the conversation. Okay, let me go back. All right, so I frequently run into people who have this scenario. So we're pre-revenue, we're not making any money, so you have an idea, and you have a medical practice, and you're trying to attract patients. And the question is, how do I do that? And you have absolutely no clue how to do that. Now, I wouldn't say you have no clue, but when it comes to sort of the business of medicine and sales and marketing and personal branding and information technology exchange and artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, my guess is that that's not something you learned in medical school. So yes, you're good at what you do, whether it's an ophthalmologist or whether it's a plastic surgeon or whatever it is that you do, but the business of medicine is probably not something that you have a lot of comfort level with. So typically, I work with people who come up with a gadget or come up with an idea, but typically it's a solution looking for a problem. In other words, they created or invented something, and now they're trying to find somebody who's willing to buy it. And they usually come up in a pre-revenue scale startup environment where they're pre-revenue, they have no product, all they really do is have an idea, and they're just looking for help. And that's really why we created the Society of Physician Entrepreneurs, which is an international nonprofit organization that helps its members get their ideas to patients. And we provide a whole bunch of stuff to help people do that. But in this particular case, one of the parts of entrepreneurship is what I would refer to as medical practice entrepreneurship. And one of the notions that I want to dispel is that entrepreneurship is not just about creating a company. There's a different definition that I'm going to give you in a minute. It's really about creating user or patient-defined value through the deployment of innovation using a viable business model to achieve certain aims or goals. And in the case of medicine, the goals are quality, cost, access, the patient experience, the doctor experience, without wasting a lot of money. And if you're creating a company, in the case of a medical tourism company, and it's a public company, then you're talking about shareholder value. So there's lots of elements, and those are the goals you're trying to achieve, and those are the standards that you should hold yourself accountable to when you're developing a practice in medical tourism. So I think these are the 5 pillars of medical entrepreneurship practice success. And you should measure your accountability and compliance with these standards, which have to do with surgical quality and safety and accreditation, hospitality standards, medical practice entrepreneurship, which is a lot different than medical practice management, upgrade your technology infrastructure in terms of information exchange, and practice cultural competency. So these, I think, are sort of the 5 basic pillars of how you should hold yourself and your employees in your practice accountable to see whether you are competitive, not just as an individual doctor, but as an ecosystem, as Tijuana, as compared to other destinations in Mexico, let alone trans-border destinations or places that patients are coming, for example, the United States, and then finally from other places around the world that are not cross-border patient. So you basically have 3 patient market segments. One is domestic, that is Mexicans looking for care in Mexico, and the best place to find it, presumably you're saying it's Tijuana. The second is inbound medical tourism cross-border, that is the states to the north. And the third have to do with international destinations that are outside of the United States. Now, each one of those customer segments requires a different sales, marketing, advertising, and branding strategy. And if you do, and you can't do it all. It's pretty hard to be, number one, to be all things to all people, and number two, to brand yourself in all of those different segments. So my recommendation to you is pick one. Now, in this particular case, you already have cross-border traffic. You already have a history of regional referral, which is very typical for medical travel at this point in time. English UK citizens go to Eastern European countries for dental work because their National Health Service doesn't cover it and because it's expensive. People in Africa or India go to the Middle East. People in Australia go to Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea. It's a regional referral network, and that's how these things get built. And then there's a crossover to occasionally an American will go to India to get a liver transplant, but that's pretty uncommon. So I would start, think big, start small. Now you're already doing this for a while, but I would concentrate on the customer and the market, and I would concentrate on the product. You can't be all things to all people. Plastic surgery, if you look at it, I'm a plastic surgeon ear, nose, and throat surgeon that did plastic surgery. So, and I worked at a major academic medical center, a tertiary referral center. So we had patients from all over the world. Particularly in our region, in Denver, where about 15 to 20% of the population are Hispanic. So most of the cultural competency had to do with Latin America, Spanish-speaking people. There were people from all over the world, but those were the major ones. So I would say concentrate on one, be expert in 1, 2, maybe 3 things. Bariatric surgery, cosmetic surgery, general practice, whatever it is that you think you are the strongest in, be the expert. And market yourself that way to a very specific targeted audience using an appropriate strategy. And most of that strategy has to do with sales and marketing. I mean, basically there are 2 parts to this: innovation, sales, and marketing. The innovation part, I'm relying on you as physicians to be physicians. That is, lifelong learners to keep up with what's going on. But the sales and marketing part is a different story. So that having been said, so part of the problem is we always say quality, quality, quality. But the problem is there is no definition, precise definition of quality in healthcare. So what does that really mean? I mean, in my opinion, surgical quality has to do with the outcome. In other words, minimal input for the greatest output, meeting a standard of care. So in my example, if I did 1,000 rhinoplasties, nasal plastic surgery, what is the quality of the plastic surgery? And that's a tough one to measure because it's in the eye of the beholder. You're really doing psychosurgery when it comes to plastic surgery. You're not just treating the nose, unquote. You're treating the psyche of the patient. So it's very difficult to measure the quality of the outcome. And if somebody asks me, how many of these have you done? I have absolutely no idea. There's no database. I don't have to report all the cases that I've done in my career. And I suspect you don't either, let alone track the results. So if somebody asks me, well, how have your patients done? Truthfully, I have absolutely no idea. And my guess is you don't either. So part of the problem with medical travel is quantifying the quality of the outcome, and whether it's the quality of the hospitality experience or the quality of the operating room experience, and it's a pre-intra-op, post-op experience. So it has to be peri-operative. What happens before you see the doctor? What happens when you see the doctor? What happens after you see the doctor? And what are the quality standards for each of those segments, and how are you measuring them? And I think that's something that if you're putting together a trade association for medical tourism in Tijuana, which we're doing here, then that's something you may be able to help the members with in terms of putting together a database and holding them accountable for it. And that way you're able to have some evidence of quality. At the end of the day, though, entrepreneurship is really about the pursuit of opportunity under very uncertain, uncontrolled conditions. But the main thing is the goal is to create patient stakeholder value. The magic word is value. And you need to have a viable business model such that you achieve the goals that I mentioned before. Quality, cost, access, patient experience. And it's not just the patient, it's the patient's family, it's the patient's, whoever they come to see you with, and that typically could be a person or it could be an entire family. 7, 8 people show up because one person needs to have an operation, very common. So you have to treat the entire family, the family experience. And then there's the doctor experience, which oftentimes gets neglected. I don't know whether you're aware of it or not, but at least where I live, there's a fair amount of doctor burnout. And I suspect it's happening in it is happening in a lot of places around the world. The United Kingdom, doctors are going on strike. It's a post-COVID phenomenon. Doctors are overworked and underpaid, particularly junior house staff, and they're just tired. So the doctor experience has really been diluted. And when you add on the burden of dealing with patients from outside of your community, that takes extra effort. And many doctors, frankly, shouldn't be doing it because it's just going to burn them out further and they're not going to be capable of dealing with it. So I just think that adds a lot more stress to the everyday workflow in practice. Now, the previous speakers have regaled you with the magic of technology. And AI is going to solve all these problems. Well, my view is it isn't. In fact, I think it's making it worse.
Yeah.
So this is really a people-to-people thing. In terms of trust and in terms of referral relationships. And then finally, as I mentioned, there has to be some measurement of the outcome and the goals. So value is really the value factor per unit price. Now, what a value factor means is, what do you as individuals, as patients, value the most? Is it experience? Is it speed? Is it convenience? Is it access? Everybody buys stuff for different reasons, including doctors. And we all buy emotionally and justify rationally. So this is an emotional decision, just like every other decision we make. I don't care who you marry, or where you go for dinner tonight, or whether you're going to go to Tijuana to get a facelift. It's an emotional decision. So you have to sort of move the patient from cognition to emotional comfort to make that happen. And part of the problem is that takes communication. And communication takes skill. And it takes time. And in many instances, you don't get paid to do it. So there's a lot of barriers you have to overcome to entice or justify and earn, as was said before, the trust, so that the patient is willing to come to you. So what we're really trying to do is value. Now, someone said we shouldn't be reducing the price of our services in Tijuana. You shouldn't. You should charge for the value. It's called value pricing. You should charge for the value you offer the patient and the patient's family. But if you're not offering the value, then patients are going to say it wasn't worth it. That means the benefits didn't outweigh the cost. So that's really another goal that you're trying to achieve. Another way of measuring this, and it's kind of like, how do you measure patient satisfaction or patient quality? One way is to simply ask them, and there's something like a Net Promoter Score that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend this doctor in Tijuana for this operation? And on a scale of 1 to 10, and it's a quick and dirty way, if your net promoter score is less than 90%, and there's a way to measure this, we don't have time to go into it, but you're not doing the job. So your goal should be a 90 to 100% net promoter score, if that's what you decide to use. Now, it's not absolute, it's not great, but it's a surrogate for some measurement. You know, it's just like, it's a surrogate Yelp thing. Like, instead of, going on Yelp and writing a whole bunch of stuff about, I love the hotel, I hated the hotel, there were bed bugs, I didn't like the cockroaches, whatever. It's a way of doing it. There's another way to do it, and that is, how much is your service, how valuable is this service to someone such that they'd be willing to give it up for a price? And so you ask them, well, how much would you pay me to not have this service and to hire the price? They're going to say, no, I'm not. It's like saying, how much would you pay me to not use your iPhone for a day? 0. You can't live in this day and age without an iPhone every single day. So it's the same thing. Like, that relative value or surplus value is so high that Apple, in this case, and other cell phone providers have created such a strong brand, people can't live without it. That's what you're trying to do as a provider in Tijuana, giving medical service. I just can't live without it. And you pay for that. We've all paid a lot of money for Apple iPhones. The hardware is not worth it. It's the brand.
Yeah.
You buy Samsung, it's half the price. You buy Google, it's half the price. Why do people, including me, buy an iPhone? Because they got you.
Yeah.
Right? You buy one iPhone, you got all this stuff on the iPhone, and when it's time to replace it, and it does, what are you going to do? Translate all the stuff into a Samsung, into a Droid? No, they got you. So it's the same sort of thing. The switching cost is just too high. It's a measure of the switching cost. Okay, so as I indicated, this is the definition of medical practice entrepreneurship. And the basic idea is the goal is to create stakeholder-defined value through the deployment of innovation using a valid business model to achieve the sextuple aim. One way to do this is to create a company, but there are lots and lots of ways to create value through the deployment of innovation. Actually, very, very few white coats, doctors, engineers, scientists, that kind of thing. I don't care whether you're in a university or not, because I'm one of the guys that the previous speaker was working with in terms of industry academic research. That happens very rarely. Very few doctors actually create a company. Most doctors, when they satisfy this definition, do it in many other ways, including medical practice. What does it take to do this? Now I'm going to get high level. So if you want to practice medical tourism entrepreneurship as a practitioner, a medical practitioner in Tijuana or any other place in the world, in my view, you need 3 things to do. You have to do 3 things. 1, you have to change your mindset. 2, you need the means to do it. And 3, you need the motivation. Nothing happens without this. So if you don't have an entrepreneurial mindset as a physician, you have a clinical mindset. An entrepreneurial mindset is different. And so we're talking about 2 overlapping circles, clinical, entrepreneurial. You're playing in the middle. And it really has to do with your impression of the world and how you see things in terms of business development and developing a viable business model. The means simply means that. You need the resources. Now, when it comes to medical tourism, you need government support. You need money. You need sales and marketing. You need infrastructure. You need hospitality. You need people. You need talent. You need IT infrastructure. All that stuff typically falls to some sort of government agency. Now, it could be a federal minister of tourism. It could be Malaysia. It could be South Korea. Countrywide.
But it's very difficult to do this one-on-one if you don't have the backup and, frankly, the money to invigorate the market. So that's the means. And then the motivation, I tell people that if you're doing this to make money, that's not good enough. Now, I'm no saint. I mean, I'm involved in a lot of business stuff because, frankly, it's fun, and two, I like to make money doing it. But when it comes to medicine and when it comes to actually doing this stuff, you really have to put that aside. You really just have to do what's right as a doctor. Do it right. Do it according to these things that I'm suggesting, and it's just not me. I mean, it's just my suggestion. But if you're really just doing this to make money, you're going to find yourself in trouble. It's just not the right thing to do. So learn how to, or get the knowledge, skills, abilities, and competencies to do this right as a doctor, and eventually this thing is going to grow. Your reputation will grow as a legitimate, caring, feeling, concerned doctor who wants to help somebody because they can't, are unwilling or unable to get it done somewhere else. So to me, that's the attitude. Unfortunately, and I'm not just talking about here, I'm talking about the United States. It's all over the world. I mean, there are crooked doctors in the United States just like there are here. It's a universal theme. But it's difficult because of the changing environment of medicine. And people are getting frustrated. By people, I mean doctors, healthcare workers. So they're struggling to kind of make ends meet, figure it out. Okay, so when it comes to what are the other elements that the ecosystem can provide you, I already mentioned that you need, in most cases, regional or government or public-private partnerships to support the ecosystem.